Hi, I'm Don Bendel, and I wanted to share with you a little story. When I give speeches, quite often I've had people ask me to tell the story about the little snake. And so I'd like to share that with you right now. There was a little snake, and his favorite thing to do was go out and hiss in the pit. So one day the snake was hissing in the pit, and his mom came out and she said, "What are you doing hissing in the pit?" And he said, "Well, I wanted to, Mom. I was just going to hiss in the pit and have fun." And she said, "I don't want you hissing in our pit. Go to Mrs. Potts and hiss in her pit." So the little snake went to Mrs. Potts and started hissing in her pit. Mrs. Pot came out and said, "What are you doing hissing in my pit?" And the little snake said, "Hi, Mrs. Pot. I was at home hissing in my own pit. My mom said, 'Why don't you go down and hiss in Mrs. Potts' pit?' So Mrs. Potts said, 'I don't want you hissing in my pit. Go home and hiss in your own pit.' He said, 'Okay, Mrs. Pot, I'll go home and hiss in my own pit.' He went home and started hissing in his pit again. His mom came out and she said, 'What are you doing hissing in our pit? I told you to hiss in Mrs. Potts' pit.' And he said, 'Mom, I was hissing in Mrs. Potts' pit, but Mrs. Pot came out and told me to go home and hiss in my own pit. So here I am hissing in the pit.' And his mom said, 'Well, that Mrs. Pot, I knew her when she didn't have a pit to hiss in.'" Okay, we'll end this video.